afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Eye of the Storm. Hi, Bullfrog. Hi, Danger. Hi, McDerp. Hey, boys. Hey, Willie. Hey, Recklaw. Hey, Allie. Hey, Mike. So unfortunately we had technical difficulties with Shot. So he's gonna be just a black box right now, and I'm laughing. I can't stop laughing. It's really.
Wait, can you make it my profile picture instead?
I could make it your. Can you send me your profile picture and I can do that?
Wait, I updated my Discord picture. Can you just put my Discord picture there?
It doesn't give me the option. Let me. Here, I'll just.
What if I turn off my camera?
Whoa,
okay, it's just a little circle of you though.
I mean, I'm still sexy regardless. I don't know.
Wait, hold on.
It's
I'll
better
just.
than being the void itself, you know.
Do you want me to just put you and Shinobi up there?
Sure. Put my gal pal.
Oh,
up
here.
there.
No, I know which one I'm using. I know which one I'm using.
Can you use my pink hair picture?
No. All right. So
Oh,
today,
the meme picture.
so today is going to be. We're going to be talking about team fighting. Anything that you guys. I got a lot of your questions. I have them ready. For when we do the Q&A section. But for now, we're just going to start talking what we kind of compiled in a document after I add Shot's face. 1 second, guys. Oh, crap.
Ready for this nice production
Oh
quality?
my God, I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, there it is. The beautiful picture itself.
Can you see it?
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
That's some high quality production right there.
Just
You're
stretch him
beautiful,
very
Shot.
far to the right, so he looks like he's 10 times wider than he actually is.
Why is it not going? Where'd it go? Oh, there it is.
Oh no.
There it is.
Yikes.
Perfect.
Hi,
Perfect. Okay.
Production!
Oh my god. Okay, so introductions. To the right of me? Yes. Technically it's to the left of me, but to the right of me is McDerp. He's new on the show. Say hi, McDerp.
Hello, everybody.
And then you can see all of his info underneath. His Twitch is at McDerp 1712, and his Twitter's right there as well. And then we have Kubie, which you guys know Kubie, and then we have Shot
Hello.
down at the bottom there.
I'm very pretty.
I can't handle it. We switched to Discord because Skype was giving us so many problems, and then Shot just ruined it. Okay.
I'm the best.
Okay. All right. So, recap of last week. What did we talk about last week, guys? We talked about the basics of lane soaking.
Laning.
Yeah,
Laning
and
and
XP.
macro.
Laning and macro. Now, can you give us another definition of macro again?
Int down mid.
Lol. No, macro is basically map control. It's pushing out the lanes, making sure that you're getting vision of where your opponents are at all times, controlling the rotations, those sort of things.
Okay. So again, if you guys have any questions regarding last week's information, don't feel bad about asking questions that we've already gone over, because we're going to be overlapping. All of the information that we're going to be talking about in these episodes will probably be overlapping, since it's such a big, entity of HOTS and all of its strategies. So don't feel bad about asking questions that we've already talked about. So we are going to dive into team fight mechanics. I've had a lot of people ask me some pretty good questions. I've had a lot of I know a lot of you have had difficulties when to team fight, when to not team fight, when to back, when to turn around and know that you can get a kill, when to, you know, push out a lane. What if you don't see them? Are they at boss? You know, all that kind of jazz. So my first question here is, when is the most, so in the beginning of a game, do you want to avoid, I'm kind of guessing that you kind of want to avoid team fighting, unless a team fight presents itself to you. Like, you don't want to go looking for a fight, correct? Unless you have an early game comp, right?
Yeah, if you have a kill comp.
Yeah. If you have a kill comp, like Kerrigan is a really good example of that. Generally, if you have a Kerrigan, you want to fight a lot. Not necessarily fight, but find picks. Team fighting is not something that you want to do very often. Most of the times, you engaging with the enemy team is finding picks and making it so that they can't fight back if they try to team fight.
Yeah. So so I know we touched on this last week. So I know Tangent wanted us to talk about going down mid. So a lot of, like, there was a huge trend before, a couple years ago, where every pro game would literally just start in a brawl down mid. Is that something that is still viable in this meta, even though the game is changing? Or like, how do we know when to have somebody, you know, top lane and then for mid or whatnot?
If it depends on your comp, like, heavily. If you're a team fighting comp, you want to force them to fight you, if you can, of course, when the conditions are favorable for you. But specifically with the level 1 fight, if you have, say, like a Kerrigan comp against maybe, like, say their tank is a Diablo and they don't really have any frontline besides that, Kerrigan doesn't have much of a problem with Diablo.
Well, level 1.
Yeah.
He has no souls yet, so he's a
Exactly.
target.
Exactly. So it's really just recognizing, a lot of team fighting is recognizing when you have an advantage over your opponent. And if your opponent has that advantage over you, recognizing that you just need to back away and give them the positioning.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of issues, especially with the 5v5 fighting, that a less superior team will still take the fight for no reason.
I mean, it's just like a Hero League thing. People are like, I want to do something, so let's go fight right now.
Yeah.
I feel like,
and then maybe we get lucky, you know?
yeah,
Well,
I feel
like,
like sometimes not doing something is like the best
Oh yeah,
thing.
for sure.
It
Like,
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if your characters require time and levels and scaling in order to be proficient at anything, why are you fighting level 1 when they're at their weakest? Like,
Yeah.
for example, like Kael'thas is kind of a good example. Kel'Thuzad's a great example. If you're
Nazebo.
for heroes, Nazebo, like, those characters are trash level 1. So
how do you know that? How do you know that you are picking a hero that scales way late end game? Like, if you're just starting out, like, how do you know?
So, I mean, with Nazebo, specifically with like a hero like Nazebo, you have to know his talents to know, like, where his power spikes are. So his power spikes are like 10, 16, and 20. So he's decent at team fighting at 10. If you get like a good wall off with your Gargantuan. But obviously his biggest power spike is a 20 with Vile Infection. So really, when you're starting out, really look at a hero's talents and see if you can understand, like, where their power spikes are at, because that's pretty key in understanding when it's optimal for you to take team fights most of the time.
Also, just experience. Just like play the game a couple times, be like, wow, I feel really good at the end of the game, but early game I feel like completely worthless. Your character probably scales.
Yep.
There's
So
also something to be said about the whole questing mechanic. So if you take quests at certain times with certain heroes, you need to make sure that those quests gets done. And if you feel like you are not in a position to get the quest finished, you might want to think about taking a talent that actually makes you able to fight. If you feel like you're getting forced to fight a lot, then the quest talents might not actually help you.
Yeah.
see, that's
dealing
the
with the situation you're in.
that's the thing I was talking about yesterday when I was streaming. I was like, when I first took quests, I didn't take them seriously. I always thought that like, oh, this is just a personal quest for my hero. Like, I honestly don't know what I was thinking. So I never really tried to finish the quests. And now that I have been playing Nazebo and Jaina, and Lucio, I really realize how much that benefits me in end game. And I'm just like, well, I gotta get these quests now, now. So, yeah. So how do you know exactly, like, you say power spikes, like, how do you know what a power spike is? Because every hero has a level 10, every hero has a level 16. Like, how do you identify a certain power spike in a hero? Is it just math?
It's mostly in the talent choices. So like, for example, Kael'thas's probably most important talents are 16 and 20. Ignite is ridiculous at creating pressure in team fights without really him giving positioning. Because normally you would have to step up to W someone and put out that
Living bomb.
But with the 16 talent, you just have to hit someone and then you have it.
Yeah. Okay. Also, everyone in the chat that still goes double flame strike, pick Ignite. Better.
Yeah. It's way better.
And then at 20, if you're still not confident in your position, go flamethrower. You ignite people from Africa.
Yeah, exactly. He becomes like a almost a better Chromie at that point.
All right, Willie, I have that written down. We'll definitely touch on that. Sometime later. Now I lost my train of thought. What did I ask you guys? Oh, power spikes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see. When is the most optimal time to look for any team fight? Like, any situation, like, what are the triggers where you should be like, hey, we need to fight now?
Ideally, if you're ahead, it's when you have a talent advantage on the enemy team, is when you're like, okay, let's go look for a team fight because we're clearly stronger than them. And if we don't mechanically misplay or positionally misplay, we should win any fight.
So now what if you do hit 10, but you're a man down?
Depends if you can blow somebody up within an instant.
Yeah.
It depends a lot on what talent you have available. Like, what is your level 10s? If you have AoE lockdown like an ETC that can jump in and lock 4 people down, then you're good. But I think it depends a lot on what you have at your disposal. If you don't have a lot of control, a lot of damage, it might be a problem if you're a man down.
A lot of times, if we're talking about Hero League, I mean, at least the higher ranks, at least, people will just, regardless of how many people are on your team, they're like, they're 10, give everything.
Yeah.
Give it. That's me. That's usually me. They're 10. Soak. Give the tribute.
I mean, generally that's the correct choice.
Yeah.
Especially like going back to, I like using volatile heroes like Kerrigan as an example, because like if they have like a burst comp where they're just going to one-shot you, if they have ultimates and you don't, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
Despite them beating down the person.
Okay, but I also wanted to talk about when you're behind and when you want to look for a team fight. So like, say you're like 2 levels behind, right? And they just hit level 15. So you're 13, they're 15. They're about to hit 16. So they have halfway to 16. You need to look for a fight pronto, because this is the best fight you're going to get for a long while in the game. As soon as they hit 16, 16 is a huge power spike for many characters. So you need to take a fight before they hit 16. Otherwise, any fight you take after that, you are like 95% more likely to lose those fights. So just like whenever you hit an even talent tier, oftentimes you'll see teams where they'll like say they're level 12 and the enemy team is level 14. They'll avoid until they're equal talent tiers when they hit 13, and then instantly they're looking for a fight. Like they're invading, they're rotating like morons, like just looking for things.
Because you want to get a pick and you want to get that fight before they become, you know, more OP than you.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
same goes for like if you're, so I know a lot. So there's level 19 and level 19. Say you're level 19. Say they're level 19. Now there's times where I see people being like, hey, we don't want to fight now because this is the other team's win condition. We want to get 20. But then there's that other, you know, thought of we need to fight now before they're 20. Like
It's comp dependent again.
It's comp dependent. Who's closer to 20? Who has more structures? Those are things that you need to take into consideration before you team fight.
So why
like
would
if you don't have any forts or something, and they do have forts, but they're very vulnerable, like you could maybe get to 20 before them by just sieging or like rotating and taking a fort, like when the enemy team doesn't expect it. If you're really close to 20 and they're like halfway to 20, I would say just get 20 and then instantly engage.
Yeah.
Because you have the possibility of just hard winning a team fight because you're 20 and they're not. If you're both even and it's like you're both a quarter of the way to 20, I don't know. It's up to the team's discretion or is that the right
Discretion.
word? Discretion. I'm insane. Sorry, 5 hours of sleep, super good.
Can you tell? Look at his picture.
You see? But yeah, it's usually up to the team's discretion, but also it's like, are your characters better at level 20 than their characters? Do your characters really need level 20? Like if you, again, we're gonna use Nazebo as an example. Nazebo really benefits from 20 if he's stacked. So like, if I had a Nazebo on my team, I'd say, screw it. We're just going to fight them at 20, and we're just going to hard win the fight because Nazebo will just carry us.
Yep.
Now, this still all, like, has to do with... Oh, wait. God, I always lose my train of thought. I write things down, and then I forget what I wanted to talk about. But I should write down what I actually want to talk about instead of just doodling. What were you talking about, Shot? Having Nazebo at level 20... I was going to ask a question, but I forget.
Nazebo's level 20. He benefits way more than almost every other character. He'll hard carry fight.
Yeah. This has to do with, like, knowing what your team is capable of in terms of talents and knowing what the enemy team is capable of in terms of talents. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know what the enemy team is capable of, like what the other heroes are capable of, then you're probably going to pick team fights at the wrong time and execute the team fights not as well as you should. Like I hate to say that. I hate to be like negative, but it's a fact that if you don't know what they are capable of, then you don't know what you are capable of in terms of mitigating how much damage your team will take, or you know, does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I like to think of MOBAs like that. Step number 1 to becoming a competent MOBA player is just knowing what every single character does. Like, I'm gonna use the Devil's game, League of Legends. Like I started playing that and I had no idea what was going on. And then once I learned every single character, I knew which characters could beat which characters. I knew which characters were strong early game, late game, whatever. And then they added new characters when I was gone, and every time I come back, I'm like, I'm just gonna lose because this guy's gonna destroy me and I have no idea what he does.
What were you gonna say, McDerp?
It's just super important, especially when it comes to late game team fighting. If you are not quite sure what the enemy's level 20 talents is, you are gonna get wrecked. Because you need to understand that, like for example, the AoE shield that some supports can do, you need to bait that out and then probably disengage a bit and let it run out if you can get away with it, and then re-engage. But if you don't realize that they have them and you completely overcommit and then they pop a shield like that, you just risk losing because they can just turn on you. So it's
No.
super important that you understand exactly, especially the level 20 talents, when you have those big power spikes, you need to know what to look out for, or you're going to have a really bad time.
So what did you mean, McDerp, by baiting something out?
So there's, it's a thing in most MOBAs, especially in Heroes and in Dota, for example, that if you know that, for example, you have your Lucio, he's going to be popping the sound barrier when somebody's getting focused down. If you can try and bait that out and disengage and let it run out, then they waste a very, very big tool to save a team fight, because it'll run out on its own. And if you just keep attacking while the sound barrier just was popped, then you're going to lose a lot of damage because the shield will just soak it. So if you can try and bait them and make your opponent overreact, they're going to spend valuable resources. And if you then don't engage them in the next 5 seconds, they'll waste those resources. And that's the thing you can only do if you understand what your opponent has available, what sort of tools they have available.
Yeah. So this is how, like, this is why, like, I forget who said it, either Shot or Kubie. They said HOTS is easy to learn, hard to master. This is the part where it takes that Shot's like, I said that. This is where it is very hard to master, because there's little things like baiting something out where, like, you can mechanically make your enemy, like what McDerp was saying, you can mechanically make your the enemy teammates waste their ults, like panic ults. Like you guys all know panic ults. We've all done it. I've done it.
Oh yeah.
Jaina panic ring. Oh my god, they're gonna kill me. Panic ring.
Pros
And then
still do it.
And then
Pros
they just run
don't.
away from you.
Yeah. So, like, that's where this mechanically gets a little bit more involved than what's really on the top layer. It's like an iceberg. Just, you know, you guys know that iceberg picture on the National Geographic where it's like little tiny iceberg on top, and then the bottom it's like, whoa, this big, like, huge iceberg. Yeah,
No,
that's
it's
kind of
Heroes.
it's kind of like HOTS. Panic ring hits only enemy minions. Yeah, there you go.
But it's also a thing you'll encounter is there's nothing that feels worse than you reacting to somebody your opponent does, and then you just run into an ability that you didn't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just get played and you're like, how am I supposed to deal with that? Playing 200 more games.
You're good.
There's
I don't
nothing
know.
else to do about it, really.
Okay, so since we pick, like, when is the most optimal time to look for a team fight, it looks like it's either right while you're on even talent tiers or right before they get a talent tier if you're more close to, you know, more close to getting that power spike. So
Well,
you always
There's also the
go ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead,
There's,
Kubie.
there's also the reverse of that though. Like the team that's down a talent tier, and they just get on even talent tiers. The other team does not want that fight until they
Yeah.
get on the later tier, if they're
So-
close to it.
Yeah.
So you'll see a team like Kubie said, like they just hit the equal talent tier. So that team's looking for the team fight, like hard. They're just roaming around invading whatever. The other team, if they're playing properly, they should just be hiding behind forts and chilling, or
Yeah.
just doing extremely safe plays.
So
Just be like,
basically,
we don't have to fight you. You guys have to fight us, and we don't have to fight you.
what you want to take away from this is it is okay not to team fight. In fact, you probably don't want to team fight. You want to gain map control. That, like, HOTS is all about map control. So you don't
HOTS,
go ahead.
the HOTS, if you're playing it like in a perfect game, you probably won't. I don't want to say never team fight, but it's going to be very, very few team fights, like maybe one or two.
Yeah.
Your most of the deaths you're going to see are through picks.
Yeah. If you
And-
if you want to get a lot of kills, play ARAMs. Play ARAMs. So, like, basically, definitely early game, don't look for team fights unless one presents itself. It's okay to be patient. It's okay to not, like, nobody's competing for kills. I mean, you can compete for kills, yes, but if you die trying to get a kill, it's gonna benefit the enemy team more than it is you. Even if you get a pick, like, and you put your team in danger because they're trying to save you, that's another thing. Like, I hate to go on a tangent, but, like, if you're trying to save your teammate, if you know they're gonna die, run away. don't, because it's better one of your teammates dies than all of you die trying to save him.
Yeah.
That's a general theme in MOBAs in general. The people will get really mad at you for, why didn't you try and save me? Because you're already dead. There's no reason to put my life on the line. And a lot of people don't realize that they believe that you need 3 or 4 people to just switch lane and save you because you overcommitted. And that's just not feasible at all. When it comes to the...
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Dang it, Kubie!
About
shotting it up,
getting
Kubie.
kills is a thing that, especially if you switch from Dota to Heroes, is a big difference, because the way that kills work in Dota is they grant a lot of experience and a lot of gold. So if you transition from, let's say, Dota 2 and you go over to Heroes, you might think that those kills and those rotations have a bigger impact than they actually have. Those people can also get really frustrated because they don't understand why more experienced Heroes players won't back them up, because they might understand that they don't actually gain a lot from it.
Because kills
is not risky. It's too risky.
Kills in early game don't give you as much XP as soaking does, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mathematically.
Much more.
Mathematically, early game kills will not benefit your team more than soaking lanes does.
If the enemy team is missing soak to get like 1 kill and you get 2 waves of soak, you out XP'd them.
Yeah, you just clap your hands and
You're like, congrats, you got a kill, but you're down half a level.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a lane where there's already another teammate that's just gonna suck it. Like,
I wanted to say something about when you were talking about chasing for kills or like really going for just to get a kill. If you're ahead of the enemy team, just in experience wise, if you get a kill, like you chase somebody down and you get that kill, you're like, yeah, I feel super good. F that guy, I got him. But you also die and your team's ahead, that was way more beneficial for the enemy team than it was for your team.
Yeah.
Because they get more experience than you do out of that trade.
Yeah.
So one-for-one trades is not always okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's bring this around and say, when is it proper to back away from a team fight?
When you don't have ultimates and they do.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. So it, like, I guess this question is basically just me saying it is okay to back away from a team fight. If you know that you cannot secure a kill, if they have Morales and you cannot reach the Morales to save your soul and they just keep getting healed and you're running out of mana, it is okay to give whatever thing you're fighting for up and back away. It's not like a chicken type of thing to like back away from a team fight. It's retreat is not weakness, it is strategy.
Yeah, because in this situation, for example, if you realize that your damage is just getting out healed and you're fighting over the objective, getting wiped and giving them the objective is a lot worse than just backing off and soak.
Yeah.
Or take a camp or whatever is available at the time.
If you don't back off and you're just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna fight until I die because it's a team fight, and you like everybody does that and they all get wiped, the enemy team's just gonna start taking forts. Instead, like if you're Kael'thas and you backed up and you didn't die in the fight, you can now clear the wave and they can't push very well over your wall. Like it's just simple stuff like that. Like live to fight another day. If you know you're losing the team fight, sure, try to get a pick on your way out or something, but don't go overboard. I just see teams that are like, oh, we're hard losing this team fight. Better fight harder. It's like, no, please stop.
Yeah. At Volskaya, sometimes it's hard to fight the whole time, but if you get to 90% plus, they have 0%. Sometimes it's better to call the... Yeah, Volskaya is different because you know that capping the objective, it takes a long time. And you're going to be fighting for a long time. So it's okay to... It's better, I want to say, if you're going to be fighting a long time, it is okay to back and get mana and regroup while your team stalls, and then you have an advantage of having rotate backing, rotate healing out, because then your team is going to have advantage where they're going to have full health, they're going to have enough mana to just finish off the fight. Does that make sense?
I wouldn't even necessarily like. What do you mean rotate healing? Like send one person at a time?
Like if you.
Because I would probably disagree with that.
So no, that's not really what I meant. So especially I'm talking about Volskaya, like because the team fights last a long time on the objective, right?
Yeah.
So like if you know it takes a while to cap it. How long would you say it takes a while? If someone's standing on the objective, how long does it take for it to get to 90 uncontested?
Kubie, you're the coach.
I don't know the exact time, but I would say
What a shitty coach.
I'd probably say
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
between 45. I'd probably say close to a minute.
Close to a minute to fully cap?
Mhm.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that it takes so long on Volskaya to cap a objective that it is okay to back and grab some soak if you need it, and it is okay to go back and heal.
It's also okay to back heal and go get a turret or something. when
Yeah.
it comes to the objective.
Because it takes so long that it's just gonna be there's gonna be enough time for you to do those things. Like so you don't have to fight the entire time and just waste all your mana and because the other team is gonna do those things and then you're gonna be SOL because you're gonna have low health, low mana, and then they're gonna be able to cap the entire thing. So
For us uninformed Kagirii, what does SOL mean? I put her on the spot, boys.
Are you mocking me, Shot?
No, I would never.
That's what he does.
Now, if you ignore the objective for that 1 minute, do you think you could close a level gap?
Sorry?
Raka says, if you ignore the objective for that 1 minute, do you think you could close a level gap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You go and take structures.
Are you mocking me, Kagirii?
I don't know. Okay. So we talked about backing away. It is okay to back away from a team fight. When is it okay to re-engage in a team fight? Like, how do you know? Like, you have to know when you're backing away, like, you're kind of like faking backing. Like, okay, fine, we give up. But then there's that point where you can turn around and just finish off the enemy team.
Let's use this example. So let's say we're on Volskaya, it's the bottom point, and you've somehow taken their fort, and they don't have a well there. You guys just fought. Everyone used their ults. Everyone's trying to back to heal up. You all go tap your well, and they have nothing. So you're healing back to full health, and they are not. So they have to choose between fighting you while you're stronger than them, or giving up the objective.
Yeah.
And it's advantageous for you in both scenarios.
I also feel like that if you're, like, let's say your team is disengaging and they keep chasing, and you get some stuff off cooldown. Let's say, for example, you have an ECC and you see that in 5 seconds his ultimate comes off cooldown and they keep chasing. Then you just wait for those few seconds and then get ready for him to turn around. Like, you need to keep an eye on ultimate cooldowns and have an idea of if my tank turns around, if Vala gets her ultimate up again, can we just stun them all and wipe them? You need to have an idea of what does my team have in their arsenal, and if they just keep chasing, then you need to be ready for it.
Mm.
There's another component of that as well. What if, like, say their damage dealer is chasing you and you notice that they're actually up way too far? That ETC, you just turn around and slide her and she dies.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can re-engage. Like,
Yeah.
look at the enemy team's positioning too.
So
Positioning is huge in team fights. Huge.
So what about, like, if you do turn around and say it's early game, so there's short death timers, and you are fighting and you turn around and say you can get one of their forts, or one of their keeps or whatever, but you stay too long. There's also a thing of, like, this always happens in my Hero League games where you see that you're at an advantage. You see that you're, killing the forts. You killed them. They have short death timers, and you stay way too long. Then they come back up with full health, full mana, and your team just wipes. That's like a huge thing where like everybody just stays like way too long. I'm gonna get this last keep. We can do it. And then no, you just all die, and then like that's usually the turning point in my games where the enemy
just a matter
team
of knowing your power level.
Yeah. That's like the turning point in my games where the enemy team gets a 1-up on us in XP. If we stay too long and then, they just totally annihilate our team. It's definitely unfortunate.
I find that that's a common thing in all the MOBAs that I've played as well, not only Heroes, that people have a tendency to forget death timers a lot. Like people just don't look at them. They're like, oh, we just killed them all. And they forget to look at them because as soon as they respawn, you need to think about, okay, we might need to haul ass, might need to get out.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point for everybody, that keep an eye on those death timers, especially once you're pushing into enemy territory. You need to be able to pull out.
Not
Remember,
only that,
it's always pull out.
Shot.
Oh no!
Shot.
Oh no!
Low blow.
Another component of that is, say you just get like free push on their keep for whatever reason. And your minion wave that's allowing you to push is dying. And they're coming to defend it. You should probably just back away once you see that they're started rotating.
Yeah.
That's map awareness.
It also comes back to knowing, like, constantly looking at your minimap. Like, the past few games that I have been playing in Hero League, I've been doing what Kubie and Shot said last episode, is that you look at your minimap more than you look at the regular map. And I have been doing that, and I got into gold. Like and I noticed that when I forget to look at the minimap is when we start losing games. And I'm not saying it's because I'm just like amazing at this game. I'm just saying that I start to do stupid things because I'm not looking at the minimap. I'm not looking at where their team is, and I'm not positioning myself well. So definitely look at your minimap. And then let's see, what's the next question?
About that, I just want to quickly note that is one of the major differences about, for example, Dota and Heroes, is that in Heroes you don't need to get last hits on your creeps. You do need to do that when you're laning. And that's why there's a lot more focus on communicating when people are missing from a lane, because you need to be focusing on last hitting, denying things. So you kind of rely on your teammates to do the minimap looking a lot of the time for you. But in Heroes, you don't really have that excuse. And the lanes are a lot closer to each other on most maps than there are in other MOBAs. So as you say, your win rate will go up if you just stare at that damn minimap, especially if the opponent can't force you out of the lane. Then you have no other reason to not look at it.
Because if you don't die... If you can, mitigate the amount of deaths that you have, and if you can at least stay alive, you can, win a team fight. You can win the game. Like, you just got to make sure you don't die. This is just the main thing. Just don't die.
Remember to write that to your teammates, by the way, all the time. Just don't die.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of in pro games. You'll see like the solo laner sees no one on the map, and they're just sitting behind their fort because they know that you can see that those people are like positioned to gank them if they come out, but they know that they're there because they're watching their map.
Yeah.
Or they're on boss.
So we kind of hit this before. Team fighting before 20. I said that we had two options. You can either fight them before they hit 20 or wait till you hit 20. And Shot made a good point that it's definitely comp reliant on whether or not you can do either or. But you really have to know what your team is capable of, what the enemy team is capable of, and if you have enough I would say, so what would be a team comp where you would want to, if you say you're 19, they're 19, you're both kind of, the same XP, and what would be the case where your team has the comp where you want to go looking for that kill?
Kill comp, stun lock comp.
So explain that. What's a stun lock comp?
Like a Kerrigan comp, or like even as simple as like you have ETC and Malfurion. ETC slides, Malfurion just instantly follows up with a root. They're stunned for like 4 to 5 seconds, or like can't move for like 4 to 5 seconds, and you just have all the time in the world to just land all of your damage abilities.
Another classic one is like EPC Taramba. Anything that can have like chain stuns, basically.
And blow up. Like, you need damage in it. I saw earlier in your chat was a question where it's like, when is it bad to have too much lockdown and not enough damage? You definitely need damage in order for the lockdown to do anything of use, unless like the enemy team is extremely squishy.
Yeah. So what's a good example of a good so let's pick some heroes. What's a good example of a good stun lock team with enough damage that you can force that fight even though you're 19 and 19?
We'll say like ETC, Malfurion, Kalthos. Let's just throw a Kerrigan in there too, and let's say Sonya.
That's very scary comp.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be your like a classic stun lock comp.
Yeah.
Also because it's super scary because there's so many of them that can initiate on you, and then the rest can just follow up.
Also, those characters in specific, they like Kerrigan and Kalthos, they have CC and they do insane amount of damage, so they fill both roles. Also, you have to like obviously in Hero League it's different. I mean, you can try to communicate it, but it's pretty hard. But you don't want to overlap your CC. You want to use it to its fullest extent, where it's like, oh, Malf just used the root. You can use the progress bar of the root that shows underneath the mana bar of characters, where it's like, oh, he's going to be stunned for this long or whatever. Wait last possible second, then you want to use your stun so you can get full value out of it.
Yeah, so CC is crowd control. I saw a model player. CC is crowd control, meaning that you can root any of the enemy players. Like, so ETC has his mosh. You basically, you stun them. They can't move. They can't do anything. They're silenced.
CC is any disadvantage effect that you apply to an enemy character. There are things called soft CC and there are things called hard CC. Hard CC is where you literally make them unable to move, like roots and stuns. Soft CC is where they can still move, but you hinder them a little bit, like slows and silences and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Malfurion's whatchamacallit, his silence, that's a soft CC.
Yeah, it's soft CC, but it does damage, which is nice.
Yeah, it does damage. There was something that you were talking about. What were you talking about? You're talking about overlapping. I know. I'm talking to myself. overlapping the crowd control. So you really need to get a feel of how long each route lasts, because if you say I have, like what Shot was saying, a Malfurion, and he throws his root down, but then I have a Thrall, and I have my W, which also roots. His what is that called? Frost Wolf? No.
Feral Spirit.
Feral Spirit. I keep calling it Frost Wolf. I don't know why. His Feral Spirit.
It's a wolf.
Yeah, it roots. It roots enemies. So say we have a Jaina rooted with the Malfurion. You have to kind of get a sense of how long Malfurion's root will last, and then use your Feral Spirit so that she moves slightly, but then gets like, you don't want to put your feral spirit right as Malfurion puts down his root, because then you just wasted your root.
Well, you wasted at least a second of your root.
A second of your root, yeah, because when she's going to get out of each root around the same time. So then you can't take that advantage of just locking her down again. Does That makes sense.
I find it also that when you're actually figuring out, because a common mistake is, when do I put my stun or my slow or whatever when somebody else does it? And for example, when I have a skill shot, rude or stun, I wait until somebody that has a reliable stun gets that off first, and then I wait for one of the harder skill shots to land. Let's say Toronto, for example. That can be pretty difficult to initiate with the stun because there's many factors that can stop it. So you want your ETC, for example, to slide in quickly, and then you assume that the Toronto is going to follow up. So if you're Thrall, then you wait for the Toronto to do it, so you have the longest amount of stun.
Yeah.
It's usually how I do it anyway. That you need to get a sense of what ability is the best to follow up. That's usually the hardest skill afterwards.
Yeah.
Coming from an ex-Toronto one trick, nothing will trigger me more if I slide, or if you use your stun, like just trying to land it before I slide as ETC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Tarana
You just can't do that.
Tarana is definitely a follow-up. Her stun is definitely like a follow-up stun. Like her stun is very hard to land, and you have to really put it where you think the enemy hero is going to end up. So you have to get a sense of how long it takes after you press that button to actually cast your stun. A half second. There we go. So you have to get a feel of like you just got to put it, say the Thrall's going left, you want to put it left to where you think he's going to go, but then he like accidentally, like he knows where you're going to put it, so he's going to zigzag. So you just got to kind of have a sense of where you need to put that stun, and it's very frustrating to learn. It really is.
No reason.
It's a prediction skill shot
when you have an ETC or something.
Yeah, it's a prediction skill shot. Okay. Let's see. Team fighting at 20. We talked about that already. Team formation, frontline versus backline, positioning. So I think I had a question. I think actually maybe Lashes asked this on my tweet yesterday. So frontline versus backline and target priorities in terms of team fighting. There's always that, like, I always have the tanks who, well, okay, that's getting into something else. Okay, so target priorities. Yeah, I was gonna start going down a tangent and not even have like what we're actually talking about.
Target priorities. The healer and or the damage dealers.
Yeah, typically just in general. You want to do? Go ahead, McDerp.
What?
No.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say something. Oh, it was Kubie. Sorry. Go ahead, Kubie.
In general, you want to start out a fight. You want to hit what's in front of you. Like, if the tank is overstepping and taking free damage, you want to put that damage onto him. Of course, you don't want to use key abilities to do that damage unless you think it's going to cause enough damage for him to back off completely and contest whatever you're fighting over.
So you just you basically you just want to use your auto attacks at that point. That's what you said. Don't use key abilities.
Well, or like Living Bomb on Kael'thas, because it has a relatively short cooldown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff that is expendable.
Yeah, like unless you're gonna do enough damage to him to like make him back away completely, you don't want to use things like Kerrigan's combo or like Jane's Blizzard, things like that. Things that have long cooldowns that do a lot of damage that you need to blow up a target.
So Model Player says attacking the healer seems like suicide half the time. That means you're either positioning yourself wrong or they're positioning really well where they're protecting their healer. So what do you do in that sense? What if you can't get to the damage dealers or the healer, where it just ends up you're putting yourself in bad positions and you just can't kill anything?
This isn't the right answer all the time, but I just like to wait until the enemy team makes a mistake.
But how do you know when the enemy team makes a mistake? That's the thing.
Generally, that's something that you want to look at it in their comp. Like, if they have a comp that's going to be able to defend their backline very well, then you should probably, you should probably be thinking something along the lines of, we're probably going to need to kill the tank or do enough damage to them to force them to back away, so that we can make them mess up their positioning.
Yeah.
There's also the split pushing way of doing it. Like if they run a death ball down mid, then soak the 2 other lanes.
Yeah,
and push
you
back.
could just not fight them.
Yeah,
Like,
if they have a really good death ball,
elsewhere.
just ignore them.
Yeah,
and
that
do
goes,
anything else.
Yeah, that goes back to what I said earlier, where you don't really want to team fight a lot.
Yeah. So Model Player also has another question. In quick match, do both teams have an equal chance of winning, or are some predetermined before the match even begins?
I mean, I don't even know what that means. Does that mean like
I'm
matchmaking wise,
I'm
or
guessing
like your team comp wise?
Yeah, I'm guessing team comp wise, because there are
you can win no matter what. Just saying.
Yeah.
People will misplay and whatnot. Like, you can win no matter what your team comp is, but yes, sometimes you load into a game, you're like, wow, they have 2 healers and we have none. That's sick. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot more difficult for you to win, but nothing's predetermined, because you could be playing against monkeys and you don't even know.
Yeah.
Or like they int and someone's having a bad day, or they yell at each other in comms and so they start trolling each other. Like, there are so many variables, or just like they're poor at positioning, or they miss every skill shot. Like, things can happen in quick match because people are just like either trying to learn the game, trying to have fun, or trying to learn heroes.
So what I want to say is that, like, Shot is right. You can win no matter what, as long as you have the right mindset. If you have to really, it comes down to composition. You have to really, and knowing what your team is capable of. You have to know what your team is capable of, what your team specializes in, and you have to tailor how you fight, how you play the game to what your comp is and what your team's abilities are. So if you are a late game team, you obviously don't want to take early game team fights. And you want to take control of the map. That is what your team is best at. So you want to avoid the other team as much as you can until you can gain control of the map and gain that XP advantage. Because once you gain that XP advantage, it really doesn't matter what their comp is. I mean, it can, because they could be like really good at their comp, but like if you are way more strong than they are, then you have that advantage. What's that?
Nothing. I'm just correcting your grammar.
Oh, hush. Shot.
A really good example of this, I don't remember which team played this, but it was an HGC match where the comp was like Ariel, Samuro, Abathur, it was some weird comp, and the whole point, and it was on Sky Temple, the whole point of a comp like that is to just split push the entire game and not even fight them. You have to, and they won the game with that comp. And the thing that you have to realize, Kag said, you have to realize what your comp is supposed to do. Whenever you draft a comp, whenever you load in with a comp in quick match, you need to start thinking about, what is my comp supposed to do? How do we win the game? And sometimes the best answer to that is we just split push and we don't fight them.
Yeah. So if your team is in comms, just the best way to deal with a team and talk to a team in comms is to not bark orders or to not shout out, this is what we're supposed to do, because everybody's going to be defensive and be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. So what I do in my comms is I say, okay, so this is what we have. These are our options. What do you guys think we should do? What is the best? These are the things that I think we can do. What do you got to get your team talking. You got to get your team strategizing. You got to get your team as a team instead of making each individual pissed off right at the front of the game.
Yep.
So you got to
leadership tools.
Yeah, you got to tell your teammates, again, I'll bring up this example. Say I'm Nazebo, and just reminding your team, maybe they don't even know. Remind your team, say, hey, I'm Nazebo. I rely on stacks. If you guys can avoid them, if you guys can mitigate the team fights and let me soak, I will be OP end game and we can win this game. Like, you just got to let them know what you're capable of, what you're going to do, and tell them, like, say, this is how we can win if you guys agree with this. Like, it's just all about that. But yeah.
So I learned this in real life, like not even like in game. Really good leaders will ask, like business leaders or whatever, they'll ask their employees or their team members what they think is the best strategy for whatever, or like what do you think we should focus on this trimester or whatever. And not give your opinion until everybody, or as many people that are willing to talk, have given their answer, so that they feel like they're heard.
Yeah, you have to definitely make sure that your teammates know that you
Unless
want...
you're straight up shot calling. Sorry.
Yeah, you have to make sure that your teammates know that you are willing to work with them, instead of just being like, this is what I know, this is how it's going to happen. Like, it's a very tough thing to learn. And then you can't really call anybody out on their problems or what they did wrong. You just have to reassure them that that's okay. It's a mild setback, and this is how we can move forward. Don't be like, dude, you freaking suck. Why were you overextended? Blah, blah, blah. Just be like, okay, so we're a man down. Don't call him out on being like, hey, okay, great, now we're a man down. Thanks, Nazebo. Just be like, okay, so now we're a man down. We have to back off. We have to avoid them, and we have to soak. Like, don't ever point out anybody's mistakes. That will just make them super, super irritated, and that will tilt them, and that will make them play worse.
Oftentimes as well, if you do make a mistake, a lot of people are very forgiving if you just say, that was my bad. I'm sorry. Like, I made a mistake. We need a backup. Like, my bad. I'll try to position better or play better next fight or whatever. If you acknowledge your mistakes, people are more likely to forgive you than if they have to point it out for you.
Yeah. That's life lessons with shot.
So, yeah, and you also learn more yourself. If you can acknowledge, I fucked up, then you can improve on it. Instead, because you're not going to improve if somebody tells you that you fucked up. People just get defensive, right? So not only do you grow as a person and as a player, but you also showcase to your team that, you know, I'm a big enough person to admit it, and then we can move forward. So it just has so many positive sides. If
you're an aspiring shot caller, you can ask your team at the very beginning, hey guys, I'm relatively okay at shot calling, or I like to shot call. Would you guys be comfortable if I shot called this match? If they all agree, or if like most of them are on comms or aren't even talking, like you could just practice shot calling regardless. If they listen to you, they listen to you. If not, you're gonna have to change up your strategy on the fly. It's Hero League. Anything can happen.
And Model Player says, I hate when they pout at spawn. If someone's pouting about your team comp, saying like, oh my god, we lost in draft, just reassure them. If you know exactly, like I said, just reassure them. If you know exactly what your team is capable of, tell him those strengths, tell him your team's strengths, and then you can say, this is what we can do to win. We're not going to lose because of our team comp if we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I mean, you can just, I don't know, it's really annoying when people pout and spawn. Like, what I like to do is I just go, look, okay, yeah, it sucks. Like say your team comp is actually garbage. Like, sometimes it happens just because people want to pick what they want to pick in here. Like, you go, look, dude, I know it sucks, but we're in this game, and I don't want to waste 20 minutes of my life, so let's try to figure out the best way that we can do this. Let's look for picks. Let's do weird things that they're not going to expect, because playing the game standard isn't going to work for us. But we need you in this fight or whatever, or we need you to play with us. Otherwise, we're not going to win 100%, because 4v5 is the hardest thing in the world. I mean, it's possible, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
It's also very important that you don't agitate them.
Yeah.
You really
have to use your baby voice.
Yeah, you really have to be like, okay, we'll do our very best. You have to be very ensuring to those people, because if you just start nitpicking at them for being negative, it's just gonna go downhill because they're obviously already in a bad mood. So
and they're human.
Yeah, they're human. They you don't know if they've just been at work for 9 hours and their son broke his leg. You don't know.
Yeah.
You just have to try and put out a positive mentality because usually it actually pays off, and they'll be like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
I actually had a game like this yesterday. So our comp was Stitches, Ragnaros, Jaina, Malfurion, and we had a Twin Blades variant.
Yikes.
And our mouth goes, "How do we kill things?" And I'm like, "Well, I hook them and then they die," which is exactly how it worked every team fight because we have a lot of front load damage with Ragnaros and Jaina. So if I land a hook on anyone, they're probably going to die. So
Especially
that's
if
how
the
we
comes out.
exactly. So that's actually how we played most team fights. I actually went gorge to force the enemy team to fight us on our own terms, like every time.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, it's a lot of it is explaining. If you know what your win condition is, explain it to your team because they, depending on your level of play, they may not know what your win condition is, and if you explain it to them, they're like, "Oh," and then they automatically understand how they're supposed to play too.
Yeah. So Aetheric says, I had a game where the Phoenix first pick got so tilted just in draft that he sat in lane soaking all game, so we were 4v5 all game in team fights objectives. We still won because our comp played safe and smart, gave up objectives instead of dying to contest them. Yeah, you just gotta play to your weakest link. Play to your weakest link, make sure they don't die, babysit them. That's really all you gotta do, and you could still win.
This is my favorite strategy for people that AFK in a lane. You just go to that lane with them and just push.
So I in terms of team fighting, so what I had written down in the document and what I have constantly been going against is a good specialist who just counter pushes like it's the end of the world. So, and how do you? I've had. That's a really snowball moment for a lot of my Hero League games. Is if they have if the enemy team has a really good Sylvanas, right? And nobody knows how to deal with her. She just keeps showing up in lane, keeps counter pushing. Then the entire team goes to counter her and kill her off. Like, how do you stop from snowballing?
Well, your first issue is that you're sending everybody. When you send everybody, you show that none of you are on map. So Sylvanas is going to back up and be scared. If you send like one or two people, or like you have a stealth character and you just send your solo laner back up there, she's probably just going to sit in the lane and be like, okay, now I'm solo laning against this guy. And then like Zeratul appears and you just get a free kill. You want to be able to show, when you're ganking people, you want to be able to show the rest of your team on the map so that they feel more confident. And so that they step up more. It's more of a psychological warfare in that regard. It's like, look how safe you are. Like, we're showing 3 bottom and you're top lane. Like, you're fine.
You're fine.
I actually think that's a very, very, very smart thing to say because you can't just have, when you're about to gank that Sylvanas, you can't have somebody be hiding in a bush in mid lane and another person TPing back to get mana because that'll instantly telegraph that something's amiss. There's 2 people missing. So that's not going to work. You need to make sure that everybody's showing, apart from the person who's going to gank, because that's going to solidify that false sense of security. And I think that's another reason why communication is so important, that, oh, can you guys just wait 20 seconds with going back? Because we're going to kill it.
Yeah.
Let's say that it's Tomb of the Spider Queen and they have, let's say they have a Zagara bot lane and you didn't really draft anything to actually like deal with the Zagara like 1v1. So what you can actually do at that point, you can actually, once you clear mid lane, you can have one person rotate bot to help push that lane out with that solo laner, and then rotate them back mid to clear that lane. So switching up your the way that your team is rotating also can alleviate that pressure and even out the playing field for you. And you can, if that Zagara is overextended, you can probably kill her too.
Yeah.
With that rotation.
There's so against split pushers, I like to think of it like this. It's like if we look for a team fight while they're split pushing, you need to win that team fight within the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds. If you cannot secure a win in that team fight and get some value on structures or turn in or whatever you're doing, then it wasn't worth it to you. And so you need to, like, you could try it once. If it doesn't work, and be like, okay, now we know their strengths and we know our strengths and we know how bad we are against them or strong against them and whatever. So you need to evaluate how quickly you can win fights in that regard so you can get value in other lanes besides the split push lane. Or you just need to sit someone in that lane where you know she's going to be split pushing and just be like, okay, well, we can't really look for these team fights because we're just unable to secure anything. So when I'm looking to just get advantages over a split pusher instead of just letting her split push, I really like to think about how fast do I win this team fight? How fast are we able to get a pick? If it's over 15 seconds, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. That's a good thing to think about. So I have a question on Twitter. Defending yourself against backline dive. From any role, that would be a good one to cover, but probably primarily as a tank. Too many tanks are either ignorant to effective peeling or overextend themselves to welcome the enemy's engagement onto the backline.
That goes back to understanding what the enemy team comp wants to do and what you need to be doing in a team fight. If their win condition is diving on your backline, then you should probably not let that happen. So you need to position in such a way that you can defend them. A good tank that's able to do something like that is Johanna, where she just has a lot of disruption. She doesn't really do damage, she just disrupts, right? So if they have like a dive comp, let's say that they see that your Hanzo is slightly overextended and they jump on him immediately. You turn on them, you Blessed Shield, and then you slow them, and then you stun them again with your W. Hanzo has enough time to get away from that engagement. And you have time to now counter-engage because they are overextended into your backline.
So
and your damage dealers are just going to eat them alive.
I typically have a lot of Diablos that just super engage and chase and, really don't peel for our backline. It's usually he's way over here while we're way over here and getting totally destroyed by their backline. Like, how do you know? So what are some good comps, dive comps that you should avoid as a tank and should really pay attention to?
Kerrigan, like anything with Kerrigan or Genji is generally going to be a dive comp.
What about Greymane?
Yeah, Greymane can be dive as well.
Yeah.
Greymane's role is dependent on what your comp is built to do. Greymane can be a tank killer, or he can be a backline dive hero. It just depends.
How about Sonya? Is she considered sometimes a dive hero? With her leap?
If you go leap, yeah, you can definitely dive.
Yeah.
You wanna hit the back line with leap almost every time. You never want to hit just the front line with leap.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, like, you're playing it wrong. But the quote unquote meta pick is Wrath of the Berserker because it just gives her so much more damage.
And you can last longer in team fights.
Against CC.
Yeah.
Like, if people are like trying to stun you to stop you from getting into their backline, like, Wrath of the Berserker lets you get out of it like 75% faster.
Yeah. I always only ever take Wrath if I know the team fights are going to last a long time.
I honestly, Wrath is the better choice in probably 95% of Sonya games.
You can keep it up without it even being a team fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the big indicator of when you should take Wrath versus Leap is, do they have more than 2 squishy heroes? So if they have like 2 backline DPS and like let's say like a Malfurion, then you can probably take Leap to initiate that fight on their backline.
Yeah.
Or if you acknowledge, like, our win condition is we need to kill the backline, but we're not able to get to the backline because we don't have the best engages. Our tank isn't very competent as hero. Like, you can make up for it and go leap if you want to.
So
I also feel like that if you're a tank and you know that you have a squishy back line and the opponent have a very divey team, you need to be very, very ready for when they do the dive. Like you can posture a little bit and move a little bit forward and try and bait them into diving, but I think you need to be saving your abilities. Let's say you're a Diablo and you need to protect your backline. You can't just shadow charge in away from your team, because if they just jump over you, you're done.
Yeah.
You can't do anything. So you need to, without expending your control, you need to posture a little bit, then you can bait them in, and then you can go in and get the stuns, maybe a good apocalypse or something. I think it's very, very important. The tank's job becomes so much more important when you have a diving enemy team, because it puts a lot more pressure on your tank to understand what they're doing.
Yeah. So that comes back to like positioning, right? So say you're a damage dealer. Actually, just say you're in your team. What is the best position for a damage dealer, for a dive, for a tank, for a healer? How do you want to position in team fights normally?
Your tank needs to be in such a position that they're able to defend the backline most of the time. The exception to this is if you have multiple dive heroes to go with your tank. But most of the time, so let's use like Infernal Shrines as an example. Let's say you have 2 warriors, and you have a squishy backline. And let's say you're on the middle shrine. You want your tanks to position in such a way that the enemy team is not allowed to come into that shrine without meeting a tank and then taking damage from the damage dealers behind them. So you usually want one tank positioned in the bush, like in the middle, like in the bottom of the shrine, and then you want another tank positioned near the aggressive side of the opening.
So that's called zoning, right?
I would say that at that point it's just better it's just good positioning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoning them out of it is when you have your tanks literally running at the enemy team, telling them you cannot come in here without dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be zoning.
I feel like Johanna's really good at zoning, maybe?
Yeah, she's a zone tank.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really fun.
Her entire job is to make sure that the enemy team cannot jump on your team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like that's literally her entire purpose, aside from like slight wave clear. I mean, she used to be just like, oh, you need wave clear, pick Joke. She insta clears the wave, but then they nerfed her. So rip the best tank I know.
Yeah.
She was actually the best tank for a while.
Yeah, I love Johanna. She's my favorite to play. Well, one of my favorites to play. So Kagirii says, when is it okay to focus the enemy tank? Like they're in the way of my skill shots. Can we just burn them, please?
If they're willing to take free damage without like their damage dealers coming in and dealing damage to you, then yes. If they're gonna take free damage, then do it.
Yeah.
Because they're eventually gonna be forced off of that point. They're gonna be forced back out of their position, and then depending on if they're like the solo warrior or not, like they just gave your team a free engage into their backline if they take too much damage.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier, where we said try not to use like your big cooldown abilities on a tank that's slightly overextended, because like he could just walk away or whatever, and then you don't have a cooldown, and then he could just force a re-engage because he knows like your blizzard is down or something on Jaina. However, if your team composition allows you to do a lot of damage very quickly to tank, so you have like a Tychus and you have like lockdown, not the player, but crowd control. That's a esport joke. So if you have like lockdown and like tank shredders and whatnot, if your team can acknowledge that, you can just be like, what the hell, kill this Diablo, get him out of here. Like, I don't want him in my face.
Yeah.
So it's when you're looking to hit tanks with a non-tank killing team, just use cooldowns that will come up relatively quickly, aren't very important, auto attack him a lot. Just try to chip at his health, because then eventually if he goes to half HP, they have half a tank and you probably have a full tank, so then you can just go in if you want to. Or just kill that tank. Like, you could engage on the tank now because he's half HP and he doesn't have as much health to go through.
Yep, a lot of tank players make the big mistake of taking too much free damage and becoming a target themselves.
Yeah. So I have a question here. Somewhere along this stream, you should talk about stacking ultimates and not hindering the team. Example, if you have an ETC and a Thrall on your team, but you are a Thrall who loves to go sundering. Don't sunder enemies out of Mosh. Sometimes you can Earthquake, slow them, and have your ETC get a better Mosh in.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, also, if ETC lands the Mosh by himself, you don't want to just instantly pop Earthquake.
Yeah, that would be bad.
They're sitting there already. Like, say he gets a 4-man Mosh, and then you instantly pop Earthquake. Well, you just wasted, like, a quarter of your Earthquake. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Or half your Earthquake. So you, like we said earlier, you want to make sure that you pay attention to how long crowd control from other characters last. And there is a little progress bar underneath every character's mana bar, and you can see how long. It's like a little yellow bar that goes down. And at the end of that bar is when their crowd control wears off. So that you want to time your crowd control so it lands right before or as soon as that bar ends.
Yeah. Yeah, little indicators like that, like the UI indicators, are just so important to take notice of.
When I was a pro, we didn't have these things.
You didn't? No, you just had to know. That's like a new. That's like a new implementation.
Yeah, a lot of pros that have been around since alpha, they don't even pay attention to that bar.
Because they just know.
I know the timing.
Yeah.
It's the same in Dota and the things, like they, for like 6 or 7 years, they never had that, and then they wanted it to be more beginner friendly, so they added the bars as well. And a lot of the older community was just like, why did they do that? Because it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the HOTS community did it too. They're like, they're dumbing down the game. I'm so upset. And it's like, if we want to talk about business for a second, like, the majority of players are not professionals.
Yeah.
It's a video game. Like, if you want new players in and you're like, well, you need to memorize what 2.75 seconds is.
And also, like, the competitive community was complaining, like, they're dumbing down the game. And then they complain, like, the community's not knowledgeable enough. Oh, well, they implemented these tools to help, like, teach the community, and now you're getting mad at it. I don't understand.
That's where we come in, and we just, like, lay down the law. Like, this is what you should do. This is how you can get better. Listen to us.
Wait. We are God.
We are God. We are HOTS Bible.
Oh no.
Everything we say is obviously, like, from our experience, our opinions. Everybody plays the game differently. Yeah. So don't take everything we say as the holy truth.
Yeah,
like, this is the only way I could play the game.
So because each game is very unpredictable, and each comp is unpredictable. So anything that we say here is a chance for you to take in and then apply to your situations. So, like, what would Shot do? What would Kubie do? What would McDerp do? And just be like, so this is what I know. This is our situation. This is how we can improve in this game. And just because each strategy that we talk about is different for each map. Because how many maps are in HOTS now? 7, 8, 10?
I think it's 7 in the rotation.
Yeah, there's 7 in a Hero League rotation. Yeah. So each strategy that we talk about can be applied differently to each map because there's different objectives. So take our advice as a basic layout, like just like a basic information, and then apply it to your own.
The general situations. Obviously, every situation is more complex than what we're saying.
Yeah.
The things that we're explaining to you is to help you think on your feet so that you know how to assess the situation properly when it comes up. in HOTS, you never want to think of something as like, this is what we should do every time. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, then yeah, exactly. Like if the opportunity presents itself, like sure, go. That would be the optimal way, but you're not going to get that 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like things of like, oh, you should focus the Morales. Well, if this person is way overextended, and the Morales is like way in the back, you know, not healing because then she'd be overextended, then kill that person. Like you don't always have to go for the optimal play to win the fight. It's whatever the best play is at that time is what you should do. And and once you play the game more, and once you understand macro, how to team fight properly, positioning, once you understand all of those things, you'll be able to see what your optimal plays are at that moment.
Yeah. And then once you get to like a competitive level, you start playing against the same players over and over and over again, and you can start learning like how they like to play the game just by playing against them. Mm-hmm. For example, early on in my career, I would play against Equinox like all the time. It was when we hated each other because we just shit talked each other all the time. And he tended to always juke upwards no matter what whenever you threw a skill shot at him. So I started telling my teammates on COG, like Glaurung, Hospital, whatever, I'm like, just if you're playing Kael'thas or something, just throw your stun directly above him. He'll walk into it. And it started working. And then I explained it to Equinox, and he changed up his playstyle and became a better player from it.
Yeah.
Which I shouldn't have done because I could have just farmed him more. But
yeah, Jesus, shot.
I'm just too nice. I don't know.
You gave the enemy your secret. Oh my goodness.
Nah, Equinox is a very good player, though. He's probably doing a great job coaching Simplicity now.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep talking a bit, but if anybody in chat has like any specific questions, feel free to ask. No matter how redundant the question is or how, just don't feel embarrassed to ask any questions because we're here to help you. We're here to help you learn how to.
If we
play
already
the game.
talked about it, we will gladly talk about it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you learn by just having us talk over and over and over again and being like, hey, don't do this, hey, do this, hey, you should probably do this, and stuff like that. Is there anything that you guys... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that we kind of like talking.
Yeah, we do. We love talking about this. We love talking about this, so...
The only thing that I want to just reiterate is just make sure that the situations that we're talking about, you're applying it to your own games and your own situations, and figuring out how to best win those games based on the information that you have and what you know about the game. Don't ever get into the rut of just trying to do one thing and that one thing doesn't work and then you don't know how to play the comp.
Oh my god, there's someone sitting behind you, Kubie.
Yeah, it's Equinox.
Oh my god, I just saw the Coke, I saw the Coke can lift up, and I'm like, what was that? It scared the crap out of me.
Tell John I say hi.
Yeah, Equinox is my roommate now.
John!
It scared me.
John, I love you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go keep talking, Kubie.
But yeah, it's HOTS. You need to know how to think on your feet. That's the biggest. That's like your biggest asset as a player. Understanding your enemy's win condition, understanding yours, being able to see the map and your positioning, and taking in all this information at once, and making the correct decision. That's what HOTS is, in a nutshell.
So Dark Northstar says, what is the best starter hero?
So we can do that by class.
Okay, what is the best tank starter hero?
The best tank starter hero, probably Muradin. It's very hard to die as Muradin, and he's good at a lot of things. Just because he's super tanky, he has an escape, he has an engage if he wants to use his escape as an engage. His ultimate gives him even more health, so he can become even more tanky. Another good starting tank hero would be Johanna. A little more complicated than Muradin, though, so be warned there. But she's pretty not mechanically intensive. So, like, you just clear waves. I don't know, like get out of CC by using your D. It's not very difficult. Once you've played her like a couple times, you'll get the hang of her. So I would say those two heroes.
He says, "What is it? I feel like I'm excelling in a support role. So what is a good support to start off with?"
Not Malfurion.
Nope.
Yeah, I would say Malfurion's the
highest
hardest. Malfurion, especially with his rework, he's the hardest to learn.
Maybe like Uther.
Le-
Medic.
Uther.
Lily, medic.
Uther's hard actually. Yeah, Lily, medic. Even like I don't want to say Brightwing
Yeah,
because she's
it's-
garbage. Don't pick Brightwing.
Don't pick her, but she's easy to play.
Yeah.
What about Rhaegar?
Rhaegar, I was gonna say it was like medic, Lily, and then like Rhaegar's like the next half step up.
Yeah, I would say he's not beginner friendly in the sense that timing ancestral takes practice to
Mhm.
know, to know all the information of when you should actually use it, because it depends on the comp that you're against how long you can wait until you use it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, Lily sucks." She's actually pretty okay.
Lily
Yeah.
is OP.
Like, she's not OP.
She's OP. Shot in my rank, she is OP.
I was gonna say I've seen Kagirii play some mean Lily. Okay.
Yeah.
Lily.
She's insane.
The most important thing about Lily, if you go cup of 1,000 jugs or whatever,
Chug of
Just-
1,000 cups.
jug. Shut up. I hate it.
The opposite.
Jugs.
Again, I'm gonna blame 5 hours of sleep. The most important thing is once you pop your ultimate, you need to avoid hard crowd control, which again is stuns and silences. Roots doesn't affect it because you can still use abilities while rooted, but silences and stuns you need to avoid because it will stop your ultimate. So if ETC hasn't slid yet, probably don't pop your jugs because he can slide on you and stop you. It sounds way more
Funny.
sexual than it's supposed to be. But
I can just imagine a team chat where somebody's like, "Lily, pop the jugs, and
that's
it's like
literally
somebody
what
just
happens.
gets
They go
floored.
pop jugs, and then it's like, okay.
Oh.
When you're in the moment as a competitive player, you're not thinking like that. You're just like, I need to get my information out in the quickest way possible.
Pop
I don't care how it sounds. It just needs to be understandable.
ETC is sliding into Lily's
Yeah.
DMs and her stopping her jugs.
I almost spit my water out of my keyboard.
Kubie.
No, I read that from your chat.
Oh, you read it from my chat.
Yeah.
What do you think we're doing? Really, you're reading chat.
Okay,
Wild
so-
meta for some reason.
Juicy question.
So easiest damage. Heal.
He's damage dealers.
Oh wait,
Rainer.
McDerp, were you gonna say something, McDerp? I think I cut you
No,
off.
I just said that we were reading.
Oh, okay.
Chat for the juicy comments.
Okay, so
Healers, because Rainer,
Rainer, Vala.
all
but I feel like so they're easiest, but they're not meta. Like Hanzo's a better version of Vala, but
but
Hanzo's
Hanzo's
so hard to
difficult.
play.
Yeah, he's a high skill cap.
Greyman is pretty okay, easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great man.
Jaina.
Model player,
Jaina's
we
hard
will.
because you have to be positionally good, but like,
Yeah.
he's very straightforward. I throw my abilities, they do damage.
One second, guys. Model player, we are going to be streaming for another 30 to 20 minutes. For anybody who doesn't know, our stream is 2 hours long if we have enough information to talk for 2 hours. But we are uploading this to YouTube, and we are also uploading to a podcast feed. So anything that you missed will be saved and available for you later. So
Also,
don't.
Can't they go through your Twitch videos too?
They could, but it's like I stream a lot, so they'd have to like really search for the
Okay.
video. But yeah, so HeroesHype is working on putting these on YouTube as well as a podcast feed. So you should be good, model player. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll probably be tweeting it out a lot. All right, so good melee hero to start off with. Actually, I would say don't start off with a melee hero. Because you have to be really patient.
Melees are difficult.
Yeah.
Melee, yeah.
They're the hardest
melee is
damage
difficult.
roll.
Yeah. You have to be really patient when playing melee, and you have to really rely on your team to do like
What they need to do.
To do what they need to do. You have to rely on like your tank to
Engage for you
and
peel.
What's the word I want to? It's not making one of the enemy teams out of position.
Baiting?
Not baiting. There's a term for it. I don't know. Whatever.
Imposing his will.
Imposing the yeah.
There's also like the feeling of you need to understand when you need to move away from what you're engaging in. Whereas as a ranged, it's more like, oh, there's something on me.
Or there's something in front of me. I'm hitting that.
I move.
Yeah.
Range shields are literally pressed by buttons forehead.
Yeah, so it's like when you're a ranged character, okay, I have a fly in my face, I move away.
Yeah.
But when you're melee, you
another
kind of
good
need to have it.
You finish, sorry.
No, it's basically just like if you're melee, you need to get in to actually deal the damage. But if you don't have an idea of when to move out, you're gonna have a really poor time. Like you're not probably gonna understand why you die or when to move out. So it's a lot. That's why I agree on Vala is usually a pretty good starter.
Okay, so
There's
like
an
I wanted to say something real quick about like another damage dealer that's relatively easy to learn. Like Li Ming is relatively easy to learn.
Yeah.
You just
She's
throw
strong
shit
too.
at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated at level 7 when you pick up Calamity if you choose to go that. But I mean that just comes with practice. It's not that hard. You just execute people with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sorry, Kubie, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I just wanted to. There's a good statement here in chat from Nyx. Practice as a bruiser first. A bruiser, like they are in sense a melee assassin. They function the exact same way. There are melee assassins that do function as bruisers, such as Thrall because he's pretty tanky, or an assassin.
Sonya.
Exactly. Sonya. I would say that melee assassins would be any frontline hero that can put kill pressure on a target. So like Sonya, Thrall, what's another good one? Kerrigan,
Zeratul,
yeah, like any melee assassin, like bruisers are melee assassins.
Wait, Zeratul's not a bruiser. He's straight assassin.
Yeah, he is an assassin, but bruisers function the same as assassins. You will die if you step up too far.
Yeah.
As will most characters except for tanks.
Yeah.
So
bruisers are often like, oh, it's like it's in the warrior tab, but like it's basically a character that you know cannot solo tank is kind of like what a bruiser is.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I wouldn't pick this character if we needed like a big beefy tank. It's probably a bruiser.
Yeah, like Sonya is labeled as a warrior, but she is not a warrior. She is an assassin.
Technically, you could say Rexar's a bruiser, but he's really not good, so we don't talk about him.
I mean, if you go Bloodlust.
Yikes, my dude.
Oh no.
No, okay.
We're getting into like the technical portion of like what is a warrior. Like like warriors can be categorized really in like 3 ways: bruisers, tanks, and like utility bruisers. I would say
we could make a whole like show about warriors and tanks and bruisers.
Yeah, but Sonya and Artanis are more giving than Butcher and Kerrigan. While that is true, they still died pretty easily to the same things that Butcher or Kerrigan would.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on Kubie mentioned a win condition. And I don't know if everybody knows exactly what the definition of a win condition is.
All right, real quick. We'll come back to it. 1 second. This is good.
Shot. Go ahead.
So the easiest multi-class hero to learn variant.
Oh no.
Not anymore.
Yeah?
He's not multi-class anymore, right?
He's definitely multi-class, and he's the easiest one to learn. considering he's the only one.
Oh my goodness, Shot.
All right, continue. Win condition.
All right, win condition. What is a win condition, and how can you identify a win condition?
Win condition is subjective. It is the condition that your team needs to win the game. You're the easiest way for your team to win the game. Like when you look at win condition, you should look at what is my comp designed to do? What is the enemy team's comp designed to do? What can we do to counteract their win condition or negate it completely? Like the example I used of the Samuro Abathur comp. Like if they draft like a straight team fight comp, and your comp is designed to split push, your win condition is to split push and to never fight them, and look for picks. You literally never fight them in a team fight unless you're up so far that you can just destroy them.
So what's another example? Let's do another example of a win condition for a different comp.
Well, we could do the reverse. So let's use something a little bit more technical. Let's say you have like a poke comp that has like a Hanzo Junkrat for your DPS dealers or for your damage dealers. Let me think of a full comp actually. Give me a second. No, I think that's fine. Basically, you want for that comp, your win condition is to basically just poke them so much that they're not able to ever step up into you, or they'll die. So, let's say they have like a Johanna or a Diablo. No, let's use Diablo. Diablo's good. Diablo gets poked out pretty hard by Hanzo if you just let him auto attack you and hit you. That goes back to not taking free damage as a warrior. But if you're taking all this poke damage, your tank now cannot engage without dying. So if you fight when your tank is poked out being you have a lot, like say you're at like 50% health from taking too much poke damage from Hanzo and Junkrat. If you go in, you're probably going to die. It is disadvantageous for you to fight with your tank that low.
Hi, Equinox.
Can't hear us. It's so sad.
I know, right? Just ignores us.
He waves.
Antisocial bear.
Okay, so how can we wrap this up? What are the main points of today's team?
Shot to God.
Team fight topics.
Oh no!
Shot that picture. Okay, what were you doing in that picture that made you make that face?
I just make dumb faces, Kags. Right?
Yeah.
Literally every picture I'm in, you'll see me making the dumbest face or my resting bitch face.
My goodness.
So I guess to wrap it up, like one of the main points for team fighting is recognizing when it's advantageous for you to team fight and when it is disadvantageous for you to team fight.
Yeah, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yep.
Or if you feel like you're being desperate for it, it's probably not the right play unless it's literally like, if we don't win this team fight, we lose the game.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's like, again, it's all about knowing exactly what your team is capable of.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Step number 1, learn every single hero in the game. And they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which we can help you with. We'll touch on hero, like we'll touch on what tanks do, what specifically damage dealers do, and there'll be future episodes that really hone in on those details. So
we also came into the fact that if you have a composition that doesn't work too well against your opponent, then try and find something positive, try and find a win condition, and try and get your teammates out of a potentially negative mindset and try and find a way to utilize your composition to the best of its abilities and not just give up, because there will be a way, and the likelihood of your opponent playing a perfect game is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So try your best to stay positive and help your team.
Yeah. Whatever your team is bad at, whatever your team does not excel at, there's something else that your team excels at. So like whatever your team is bad at, there's always something that you guys can pick up and, you know, be better than your opposing team. So like push or team fighting, like there is a comp that is out there that is good at, you know, you can't really fight with a team that does not do well in team fights. Like it's that simple. Like not every team, not every comp has to do team fights well. Like I mean, go ahead.
It also can suck if you're like super good at team fights, but you're awful at pushing down structures.
Yeah.
Like you need like a fine balance, but not so spread out that you aren't good at one thing, you know? Where it's like you need to somewhat specialize your team composition, but you don't want to specialize too heavily because then you're lacking in a lot of other areas. But you don't want to be so diverse that you're not proficient at one thing.
Yeah. Yup. That's about it. Simple, right? So simple.
It's very complicated.
Everybody getting into timing now.
This game is harder than every other MOBA.
It really
I can't tell it enough.
It really is. I say that a lot in my streams, and a lot of people just lull at me. But this game is, because it is team oriented, it is very hard.
Other MOBAs, you can just hard carry. This MOBA, you actually have to work with strangers, and that's why it's hard.
And go ahead.
There's also the thing that people don't realize is if you play League of Legends, if you play Dota, if you play Heroes of New Earth, I know that game actually.
Yikes! Dead game.
I know. You have one map.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really forget that you have to play every single map in HOTS in a different way. You can't just AFK the same thing every single time. It's not going to work. That was one of the hardest things for me, switching from playing Dota for 6 or 7 years.
You're just like, oh, I'll just lane.
Yeah, I'll just lane. And I was like, wait, I don't have any items. What am I doing? I can't just carry. It doesn't work like that. I think that's a really, really big issue for a lot of people that are switching. There's 7 maps too low. We've only played 1 in our other games.
Yeah.
The only thing I really wish that this game did better was talent diversity. Because a lot of times it's just like, this is the build you should go 99% of your games. And it's really sad because like there are some really cool talents out there that just aren't good enough to be taken.
Yeah.
And so I really wish that like different builds could be more viable and other talents would be buffed or changed or implemented new ones that make the play style of a character completely different.
Yeah.
But I understand it's very difficult for the developers to come up with that because I can't do it right off the top of my head right now. Like it would take me probably months to come up with at least new talent for every single tier on one character.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I plan on having Math of the Storm featured on this show because he literally writes blog posts about the math behind Heroes of the Storm. So I feel like a lot of that would be really good to really get some details on this show. And then I also plan on having a show focused around voice chat and how to do well in talking to strangers and how to deal with strangers. And it'll be more like psychological, like how to manipulate your team into listening to you. No, don't do that. But yeah. Manipulation. Don't do it.
You don't call it manipulation. You call it
working together.
Working together. You put it in a nice way so that they think that you're being a nice boy or girl, and then you trick them into doing what you want.
No, don't listen to Shot. No, I'm kidding.
No, that's true.
Just
in a
tell
nice
them that
way.
they had a nice haircut today, and they're like, "Oh,
thank you."
You're looking really good today, my dude.
yeah, exactly." And they're like, "Oh, thank you."
But
and
you
like,
can't
"Oh,
see
really?"
me.
That's really creepy.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're just like, "But I know," you know.
Yeah, it's I know.
Just be like, "Yeah," and then you just say, "I know" for like 5 minutes.
All right. So, again, we will have these shows posted on YouTube. I will tweet them out. I will put them somewhere for you guys to be able to watch them easily. They will also be on a podcast feed for you guys to listen to, for those who can't, like, you know, watch videos at work and whatnot. So that concludes our episode 2. If you do have any questions, feel free to message any one of us on Twitter. I know that we will definitely be willing to talk with you about any questions that you have if you were too embarrassed to ask here. Also, don't feel embarrassed to ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're nerds. We like talking about this stuff. We like showing you how much we know about the game.
Don't ask me, I'll block you.
No, he won't.
Don't
He's a good boy.
I'm a nice boy. I just troll.
I just troll. All right, so let's do introductions again. McDerp, where can we find you? When do you stream? Let us know.
So I stream at twitch.tv/McDerp1712. I currently stream very irregularly because I'm doing my master thesis and trying to finish off university once and for all. But I try and get evening streams in European times, currently doing some Total War Warhammer 2 and enjoying following the hero scene.
Nice.
On Keg stream. A lot. And I'm really looking forward to the new map as well.
Yeah.
And,
good luck on your masters. It's a masters, right?
I hope I don't need luck. I really hope that after 5 years that I accumulated some sort of knowledge.
Oh, you probably have. 100%.
And if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it is below here as well, McDerp because McDerp is just taken by 500 people. So.
All right, Kubie.
You can find me at Kubie on Twitch. I stream pretty irregularly as well. Trying to change that, but trying to get a consistent schedule is very difficult. But you can also find me on Twitter, Kubie_QB.
I do that together the entire time I knew you.
I know. I didn't notice it until I typed out his name.
I never noticed QB is just Kubie.
Oh my. That's why I put the letters after my name.
Yikes.
Under the radar.
Yikes. But I do free community coaching, so if you wanted to message me to look over the replay with you, I'd definitely be willing to do that. Do note that once again my schedule is kind of crazy, so I do that as time allows.
Okay, Shot.
Hi, I'm Shot. You can follow me where you see at Twitch. I'm just twitch.tv/Shot. Everybody compliments me on my sick Twitch name. And then on Twitter, I recently changed it from shot_hots to twitter.com/shotlancert because that's my last name. And, you know, it's just nice to have generic branding for yourself. So I changed it. For my stream, I was very irregular. I hope to get back more into it. When I used to stream before, I was in a very not great mental place, so I would just be grumpy and quiet and not very exciting. But right now I'm in a pretty good place in my life and I've been enjoying it way more. I streamed the other day and I was a complete monkey. But it was so
in a
much
good
fun.
way?
Yeah, in a good way. I played a Chromie game and I was just straight screeching the whole time every time I landed a skill shot.
Oh no.
It was really fun.
So 2 times in that match?
Wait, that's toxic. But no, so hopefully I'll start streaming more and hopefully I can get a schedule coming up. But if you would like to follow me, I would follow me on Twitter because I always post that I'm streaming on my Twitter or just updates on my life. I'm not one of those streamers that only post their stream, I promise. I also do other stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys can follow me there.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for joining us, or for joining me. We'll definitely have another show next week. I still am undecided what exactly we want to talk about, but I will figure that out. Eye of the Storm is every Saturday at 11 a.m. PDT. So definitely look forward to that. Again, these will be uploaded as VODs in YouTube and as well as podcast feeds. So look for those. I will tweet those out. Follow me on Twitter, on Twitch, all below right there. And thank you guys for participating. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to DM any of us. Okay? Yeah. All right. Have a good weekend, guys. We'll see you next weekend. Bye.
Bye.